Uh-oh, I think I'm gonna burp.
Well, hello, and welcome to Valerie and Bennie's podcast, the brother and sister podcast, where we try to talk about something that's gonna help your week out.
Yes. And we're going to alternate the topic, and the other person will not know what the other person's topic is.
That's correct. So last week, Valerie talked to you guys about, what did you talk about?
Oh, good. I'm glad I brought my notes after all. I was like, I brought this and I don't even have any notes.
Oh, you talked about not having negative self-talk.
Yes, exactly. I talked about switching it. So talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. If you want to talk to yourself negatively, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend?
That's right. So, yeah, and that is a good, just a rule of thumb, that if you wouldn't say it to a friend, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself, probably.
Exactly.
So there you go. Yeah, this week is my topic. I'm not going to get there yet. I thought I have to ask you, first of all, like, how was your week? Your eye is much better.
Oh my gosh, so much better. I don't have to wear sunglasses in the classroom anymore, so that's cool. The dog is going crazy.
My dog is walking around in our studio.
No, my week was really good, actually. We're doing California state testing in the school, so we're doing all that stuff, and just kind of went like smooth sailing, so that's good. Last night, I got to go to an event at Mark Sisson's house. If you don't know who Mark Sisson is, he's the creator of Primal Kitchen Foods. And so he had a little gathering for his new mayo, which is called Whip. So it's supposed to be kind of like the Miracle Whip, which I don't like Miracle Whip. So I was kind of like, am I going to like this? But it's not as sweet as Miracle Whip, so it's doable for me. But anyway, big, huge soiree, like, unlimited food and drinks and just
cool
fun stuff.
I like Miracle Whip, but only on sandwiches. I know it sounds stupid, but like we learned to eat with Mom artichokes with mayo.
Yeah, but not Miracle Whip.
I know, but that's what I was gonna say. You can't do Miracle
gotcha.
Whip with
Right.
With artichokes.
Right.
There's certain things that it works with, but other things there's no way in the world.
Yeah, maybe like in a coleslaw or something like that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
You know what's interesting is that you just talked about unlimited food. I was going to talk to you about my week quickly. So number one, Patty's car, my wife's car, broke again, and it's part of what we talk about. Not what I'm going to talk about today, but I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. But when something happens to, well, particularly car issues, they're just a pain in the butt, And what's funny is that I noticed that there was something underneath her car that day. In other words, she had gone and I'd worked out downstairs.
Oh, and you saw her driving away and you noticed something?
No. Oh. I saw it on the ground. Like I saw something on the ground and I thought, when she comes back, I better check on it. And then she calls me up saying, Benny, the light's going. It turned out to be a radiator fluid leak. It wasn't the radiator, but that's what it was. And so I had to take it to a guy, got it fixed. But at the same, it was just a real bummer because the other thing that happened was when I filled up the water, Patty just by chance put it in gear when I was going to close the hood. And I saw the engine just make this huge move. Like it just shifted completely. And I was like, oh my goodness. I literally said, can you do that again? Like put it in park and then put it back in gear. Cause I want to see if what I saw was real. She does it again and it totally does it. And like it totally moves. So then get home, call a mechanic. I tell him about the leak. And then I said, hey, and by the way, I said, I don't know if I know enough about cars, but this engine, when she put it in gear, like the motor moved. And he goes, well, that's normal. The motor's got to move some and, whatever. And I go, okay. So I just let it go. And I took it to him. And when I took it to him, though, I just reminded him, I said, can you just look at that and just tell me if that's normal? He calls me up and he goes, dude, that is not normal. He's like,
that thing is dancing.
He was like, what happened with you? That is not normal at all. And what it turned out was it was missing a bolt. And what's irritating about that is there's a whole nother story that you're aware of, but our listeners are not.
They forgot to bolt.
There's a guy who is supposed to fix it. And this is, I'm going to make a very long story short for our listeners and simply say this guy drove our car drunk and ran into a curb.
Now, by guy, who you mean is the mechanic
the
that was
mechanic
supposed to fix
himself,
your car.
and he went with his boss.
Yes.
They went out apparently and got drunk and drove our car and ran into the curb, and then he tried to get it out and fix it himself. But suffice it to say, he didn't completely fix it, and so it's even more irritating because this is a guy that yeah. So that's a whole nother story, right? But so that happens. So I pick up the car though on the day that. But what I got to do was I got to go out with Ashley. We went to an LAFC game, Los Angeles Football Club, for those people that care.
Because your car died?
No.
Oh.
Totally unrelated.
Okay.
What I was trying to really get at, I know, here's the segue. The segue is gratitude.
Oh, okay.
The segue is gratitude because, you could really rest in this. And the other thing I forgot to mention, golly, this is a busy week. So the other thing I forgot to mention is I turned in a paper on Sunday for my master's degree, and I don't say this to brag, but I get 95 to 100% on anything I turn in. And every time I turn in a paper, I always say it's crap, and then you get a good grade. Then I get a good grade. And I told Patty this time, I said, I'm turning this in and it's crap. She's like, okay, whatever.
You always say that.
And you always say that. And I said, no, I'm really not comfortable with this. I said, I'm really not. I really think this is bad. And she like, okay, well, whatever, you're going to do fine. I got a D.
Oh.
I got a 60%. And what turned out happened was I ended up I read one of the requirements completely wrong, and I did the entirely wrong thing.
Oh.
So she is letting me rewrite it. So
she is.
Yes.
Oh,
so
good.
It's good that I get to rewrite it. It's bad because I
now
get
you have
to
rewrite
it. So I really don't want to do that. But
yeah.
I'm grateful that I get to rewrite it.
Does she usually let people rewrite, or does she know your quality is usually
Can
better?
I tell you what's really scary is in this class I only have 2 papers.
Oh.
So getting a D is really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
And this was the first one.
Oh, got it.
And then we do have other weekly like discussion posts we do. I'm all online, and so I'm 100% on all those. And so that's a significant part of the grade. But there's only 2 papers, and so it's a big deal to get such a bad grade.
Yeah.
It's an inopportune time. But then my daughter, Ashley, took me to this soccer game. And so I was just saying, you could sit there and rest in the horrible things that are going on, or you can, I'm grateful I get to do this again. I'm grateful that I have a car. I'm grateful that the car is running now.
Yes.
I'm grateful that we have the money for the car.
Yes.
And I got to go out to this game. And then you were mentioning all you can eat food. Ashley has a friend who's actually our age, so it's interesting that she has a friend our age, right? But she goes to the gym with her. Gal knows that she likes soccer. She invited her to a soccer game. She has season tickets, and they're in this club level seating place where it's really nice food.
Peter's been able to go to those events where you just like can watch the game from it's like a clubhouse, right? And
yeah.
And behind you is like a smorgasbord of food.
Yeah. Well, and this is like, because some of the places like at Staples Center or whatever it's called now, crypto.com, they're like kind of small little venues. This is a huge thing. Like there were I don't know, there were at least a couple hundred people, maybe. I don't know how many, but a couple hundred more. And it was just really cool because they have all this food there. Drinks, and it's all part of the ticket. It's all part of the ticket, and at the same time we're getting to watch a game, which we love watching the soccer, and I just love all the competition and all that stuff. So super fun time, and we tied, and then we lived in Kansas City for a while, and when I first started watching soccer was in Kansas City, in terms of U.S. soccer, and they were playing Sporting KC, so that was kind of fun.
That's very cool.
To get to see them do that. And I told Ashley, I thought, oh my gosh, Ashley, this is so cool because they're playing Sporting KC. And she goes, Dad, why do you think I invited you? I was like, oh, well, that's, I thought that it was just.
That's very funny.
But anyway, we had a good time. So, all right, well, let's move on.
All right.
I wanted to. So here's my subject, and I'm gonna start it by asking you a question.
Oh.
And it requires vulnerability. So if you don't want to be vulnerable, then that's okay. It could be light or something. But but it might be vulnerable. Maybe something that you are more profound is something more profound.
I really don't like how we decided to do this like every other time. Bring it up. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care. I'm pretty much an open book. I'll be.
Okay, so here we go. Is there anything in your life, a habit, a routine, a pattern, anything that you would like to change? Maybe it's the way you communicate sometimes. Maybe it's how you respond to somebody, or maybe it's something that you regularly do. I don't know. It could be.
Well, there's two things that came to mind right away, so I'm just going to go with those because I feel like your first thought matters. The two things are, the first one is more a little, okay, I'll go with the second one. No, I'll go with the first one. I'm going to forget the second one.
Why don't you say both of
them? Okay, my first one that came to mind was a pattern, a habit. I have this really bad habit I have OCD. I really do. And I really try to get out of it. I really pretend like I don't, but I do. So I'm often kind of late to things. I'm often right on time or even a minute or two late. I don't like to be really late. But because I can't let something go, like I will walk past the living room ready to go, and I'll see that my pillows are askew on the couch, and I will have to make my pillows nice. And Peter will even say, if we're together, like, really, we're going to be gone. You can do that when we get back. No, got to do it. Can't leave the bed unmade. Can't, I have to wash the sink out if it looks like there's like a piece of hair, or, I can't let it. If I know that I'm going to be gone, like I have to walk back into a clean house. So that's one thing that I try to let go of. Even when the kids were little, they would take their shoes off and I would immediately say, oh, go put your shoes in the bedroom. And then I was like, okay, I got to break this habit. It's not a big deal to have shoes there, but it would take me 5 to 10 minutes to talk myself down from being antsy that the shoes are on the floor there. Like I could not rest. And so it kind of reminds me of Mom a little bit. I remember watching TV with Mom, and we'd all be sitting there enjoying a family show, and she would stand up and go move a picture or move something on a fireplace, and you're like, what are you doing? She goes, well, it was out of place. It was moved over, and I feel like I have a little bit of that and then some. But so that came to mind first. The other thing that on a more, a person level, emotional level, whatever you want to call it, is I'm really not good with, are you okay? And he's, or, for example, if Peter says, is everything okay? Are you doing okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I'm not. And instead I want to be able to say, well, this is bothering me or whatever. I'm learning to do that, but that is something that I have struggled with and kind of still try. I'm getting better at being able to just say what it is, but.
So I'm curious to understand it better. When you say I'm not good at it, it's not an honesty thing. It sounds more like, or is it an honesty thing? Like you're like, you don't want to just tell him the truth in the first place, or is it more like, I know what I don't even know that I feel bad.
No. I know that there's something bad. I know that I feel bad about something, whether it be maybe with him or something else going on.
Oh, okay.
But I don't want to be, and this sounds bad actually, but I don't want to be a negative person. So I don't want to bring up whatever it is. And I'm like, I'll just work it out through myself. I'll just work it out. But inevitably it'll come out, and it comes out worse because I've held it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want somebody to read my mind.
Yeah.
I want somebody to know what's wrong with me.
Yeah. Well, so this is my subject for today.
Okay.
My subject for today is why do we struggle? Because I definitely have my own things. Why do we struggle with change? How is it that people, because you want to change, right? Mm-hmm. You want this to change. Mm-hmm. And, you've heard stories of people. As a matter of fact, there's a study. I wish I knew where it was so I could sound smarter, but there's a study of I think it's 1 out of 6 people, when they are told by a doctor that you have to change, normally it's smoking,
Sure.
eating,
Yeah.
exercise. It's one of those things. You have to do this or you will die.
Mm-hmm.
Only 1 out of 6 people actually make
Oh,
make
wow.
a
That's
change.
a crazy study. I wouldn't have thought that, especially coming from a doctor,
Right.
Because I think of grandma. Grandma's smoking since she was, what, 12, 15 years old.
12,
And in what, in 50s or 60s, the doctor was like, you need to stop. Or was she in her 50s?
Yeah.
You need to stop smoking or you will die. And she cold turkey just stopped.
That was
Never smoked again.
right. And so I think for us, that's so funny that you brought grandma up because I was thinking about her when I heard this study too, because I thought, well, she was one of the ones.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently studies have been done. Maybe I'm wrong, so somebody Google it. But the truth is that those people are highly motivated to change. I don't think that the 5 people or 6 people, because I really don't remember how the study exactly worked, I don't think that they were like, I just don't want to change that bad.
Mm-hmm.
The one person wanted to change more than the other people. I don't think that's the case.
I agree with you.
I would say that they're highly motivated to change. My guess regarding your issue here, either one, the OCD or the I'm not okay thing, you want to change.
Yes, absolutely.
So I have some thoughts on it. So I don't want to, but I don't want to just like lecture. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on why people don't change? Why it's a struggle? You can use yourself as an example, or you can use somebody else.
Well, for me, for example, if we'll go back to the OCD thing, I don't. That's just something to me. That's like a practical thing, and I know some people get, we know somebody that's very OCD who washes his hands 10,000 times, and to the point where he bleeds and cracks and all that kind of stuff. I don't have that thing. My thing is just I like a nice and tidy home. And when things are out of place, it kind of gets me a little, I don't know, I just feel a little disheveled inside my own being. But I can work through that. I can, and I've wanted to. And I've even left things in the sink and, overnight, and then in the morning, like put them in the dishwasher or whatever. So as far as that goes, that's something for me that it's just my own thing where I want to wake up and see, stuff on the floor, or do I want to wake up and see it clean?
Well, let's backtrack this though, because how you started the OCD thing, to me, OCD is in and of itself a thing, right? So, or
I didn't even know that could be an OCD thing. Stephanie said.
Yeah, well, and it definitely is OCD, and OCD has to do with anxiety. It has to do with, in other words, it makes you anxious that the pillow isn't right at some level. Anxiety, there's levels of anxiety, right? So I'm not saying you're ready to be hospitalized, but
no, but something, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but something
yes,
something came through my head just as you said that, and I think I talked about it on our very first podcast. I think the only thing I can control was food in my relationship with my ex-husband, and that because I never, as a child, even as a teen, grew up being OCD. You've seen my room, like right. I liked clean, but not like that. But those were the things that I needed to have done in my house because that is what I could control. And so I'm wondering if that's why. I mean, because is it a learned thing or is it something that you're born with?
Oh, for sure it can be. There's two things. I don't know if I like the word born with, but I would say that if you're, because of my schooling right now, I've done a whole, genogram on our family and so on and anxiety. I mean, just like we just mentioned, grandma, I mean, she was one of the most anxious people
and then all
ever.
3 of her kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
So anxiety is definitely a part of our family tree. So I born with, as in, is it in your blood? I don't. Yeah, it's above my head, but I would definitely say, if we trace our family a few generations, you can definitely see anxiety. But what I think is interesting though is let's change the. I don't want to change the subject. I want to do what you said in the beginning. The issue, because OCD is in and of itself a thing, but the issue that you mentioned is sometimes I'm late. For things because of the OCD. So the real behavior that maybe you want to, that maybe we could talk about that would be less intrusive than ACD.
Let's just make that one. Let's start something new.
Let's start something new. Then OCD. The thing that might be different that we might be able to focus on is, well, how can I not be late? And so this is a great example, actually, because what you're saying is, and this is something that I'm stealing from a woman named Lisa Leahy, Immunity to Change, and Robert Kagan. Sorry, there's two authors, but Lisa Leahy is the one I really was reading about, because I haven't read this book, but I stole a bunch of information from it. But what she talks about is, usually whenever there's a change thing, like in my life, for me, I wrote a few things down. Where did I write it? There's things that I want to change that, in terms of, like, for me, a really basic thing. I don't know what happens to me. I'm really good all day long with eating in general. Like, I stay good. And then after dinner, when we're watching TV, I will eat anything that's in front of me, and I'll eat a lot of it.
Right.
And then I just feel like crud. And I would love to change that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really would love to change that. And so it's like, that's just a really basic thing, right? So there's a food thing. I think if you're out there, you could think of whatever thing that is preventing you, or whatever thing that you want to change in your behavior, in your action, whatever it is. What is that thing? Well, what I find interesting is we kind of reverse engineered it in your case. Let's talk about the fact that you're saying, I want to be on time. And what you basically did was, you basically did the whole thing, because one of the things that they talk about is, what is your goal? My goal is to be on time. What am I doing instead?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm doing, what am I not doing, or what am I doing? And in this case is, what I'm doing is, I'm doing these little tidying up things, and that is making it so that I'm not able to be on time. Right. And then the next one, and this is, so what people will do, and this is what's interesting. I want to be on time. What I'm doing in your case is I'm cleaning up the pillows. So what most people immediately do is they go to, okay, I need to stop cleaning up the pillows. Like, we immediately go to action. We immediately go to something that we want to do. I think I've heard it called action bias, because we're action. We have that bias that we have to move to action immediately. What she recommends that we do is that we try and find what is the underlying thing that's actually driving the action. What is it that is so important about moving the pillow?
Well, it's really funny, because it's not important, but it's important for me to walk in and see that it's the way I like it.
But see,
but I'm just bad about it in general. Like, we'll be going to the gym and it's 8:45 and our class starts at 9, and he'll say, okay, let's go. We can get there early. We can warm up. We can row. And I'm like, well, no, I have 15 minutes. Well, no, you don't, because it takes us, 7 minutes to get there. I'm like, okay, well, then I have 8 minutes. I'm going to go throw a little laundry in. Or, you know what I mean? I just can't. I'm just like, I'm a doer. And so it's like, let's just do this until the time we really do have to walk out the door. Rarely am I sitting around going, oh, I guess we should go now. I'm always trying to get. But the underlying thing for me is, I just like the way it feels when I walk in and it's been done.
So what...
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with it. What I do think is funny is that when you were looking at the time, you looked at your wrist that doesn't have a watch.
I don't think I was looking. I felt like
you were like this. Like,
no, I think a piece of hair was on it, but I was like, is that a flea?
Oh, okay.
I wasn't looking.
It was so funny because you go because do we have enough time? And then you went to the wrong wrist, and I thought, what is she on?
I think it was my hair.
Doesn't she know where her watch is? Okay. Anyway, well, let's go back. So, see, here's what I think is interesting, and I'm trying to avoid picking on you, but I don't care. But it's working. I mean, hopefully it'll work so that listeners can get the idea. The thing that I think is interesting is your first response to this was, I like to come into the house and it's set clean.
Mm-hmm.
And your first response is, it's stupid.
I know.
And why? And what I think, one of the things that she really says is, it's not stupid.
Mm.
It, for whatever reason, and maybe this is a deeper thing that takes longer to get into, but that is important to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a valuable thing to you. It means something to you. And that's the very thing that we need to make sure we don't do, is undermine
Mm-hmm.
the importance of the house being.
Which is funny that you said that, because Peter will say, it's not that big of a deal. We'll do that when we get back. And I'm like, but it is a big deal to me. You know, it's important to me. So it's fun. That's interesting that you said that.
Yeah. And so recognizing that it's important. So, and then what happens is, at this point, I'm doing this. I'm not an expert in this. Okay. But what's,
oh, you're not?
Shut up. So what happens at this point is, once you made the commitment, this is the commitment. The goal is be on time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm writing it. So if you're out there and you're listening, she does 4 columns, the woman. And so the first one is, what's your goal? First column is, okay, I'm going to say be on time. What are you doing, or what are you not doing that's, blocking the goal, whatever it is. And so we're going to say fixing the house, errands, that kind of thing, errands. And what's the hidden competing commitment? What is the hidden thing inside there that's keeping you from this? Now, I might not be doing this completely right, but in this case, just to simplify and because of time, we're going to say, I want the house clean when I come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, though, I'm interested in talking about is what you said. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but is when you were with Rob, what did that do for you? Like you were saying.
Is that the 4th column, or you just?
No. I'm asking because you can have more than one. You can have more than one thing in each column.
It just occurred to me, because I always knew that the food part of it I controlled, because I didn't think I had anything else. I didn't have any control of anything else in my life. But I do know that is exactly when I started making sure the house was tidy and everything was in its place and that kind of stuff. So, and I don't even think that he required that of me. That was on me. That was what I could do. Plus, yeah.
So what I think is interesting is that part of what happened for you was, in order for you to take some control of you needed to be able to say, I can control at least the way this house looks.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so what's interesting is, for you coming now, I'm gonna totally push the limits on this thing, because maybe I'm in left field, but it's possible that for you to come home to a dirty house reminds you of not being in control.
Oh.
Does that ring true?
Well, I mean, first response is no, it doesn't, but it could. I mean, that could very well be that. It could be, that underlying thing, like you don't have control of it. It reminds you of the chaos and this was what you can control, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest, but that's interesting.
What's interesting is that, at least in my little studies, in my little master's program, and those, one thing that we do recognize is, when it comes to OCD and anxiety, and I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert.
So is that hand in hand? Because I really don't feel like I have anxiety. Like, I feel like I'm one of the most calm and very, like, how do I word this? Like, I just don't feel like I'm an anxious person, but I will tell you that when those things are out of place, or when I do have to talk myself down, and I have been very good about just going, just leave it. It's fine. And I can get back into the TV show, and it's not even on my mind anymore. But is that, like, always a thing? OCD and anxiety?
OCD is considered an anxiety type disorder. But it doesn't mean that you're anxious, though.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, like you said, I would never pin you as anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So I really would not pin you as anxious. I don't get a sense you're anxious.
Mm-hmm.
You're never anxious when in our conversations in family.
Mm-hmm.
And even your OCD, is not the kind of OCD where you're putting other people under your OCD. Maybe Peter a little bit in the fact that he's late when he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
But you're not like and maybe your kids felt that a little bit when you said go put your shoes away or do something like that. But you don't do you might do certain things in order to make sure that things are good for you.
Right.
But I don't think you necessarily put other people into an anxious state. And I don't picture you walking around anxious. But you also have a lot of good practices in your life that you've purposely done because you recognize certain things and you want to make sure that you are as healthy as you can be. And so this is just an example because I wanted to talk about change.
Sure.
So I really am not trying to put you in this situation where you're an anxious personality and you're, you got all these issues. So really for the listener, what we're really trying to get at is there's probably a goal that you have, whatever that goal might be, whether it be like for me, that eating thing, it's something that I would love to change.
So what would that be? How would you put that in your little box?
So, well, first of all, the eating thing it wouldn't be the goal, right? The eating thing it's just like in your case. When I asked you what your thing was, you said, I'd like to stop doing this. Well, really the goal is I'd like to be on time. Okay.
Oh, right.
So I'd like to be on time. So in my case, I want to be healthy. So I just want to be healthy. So I'll write be healthy in column 1. And then what am I doing instead? I'm eating bad food, especially at night. Yeah, because I really, for whatever reason, during the day I don't.
Yeah.
I rarely eat poorly during the day, so I do that at night. What are the hidden competing commitments that what is it that's preventing me from doing that? It would take me some time to really figure out and some good because I certainly want it. I'm pretty disciplined in my life in almost every aspect. But when it comes to the food thing, I think or healthy, so I need to stay on health. What is it that
But you did say after I do this, I feel pretty bad. And do you mean you feel bad like physically, like you ate too much or whatever? Or do you mean
no, mentally?
Mentally.
Like I mean, I guess occasionally I do feel bad, but physically, but most of the time it's more like I
can't believe
damn
I did
it,
that.
I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have eaten 45 pounds of ice cream.
Well, my suggestion and that thing would be to remind yourself as you're grabbing whatever it is you're grabbing, unhealthy, is am I going to beat myself up for this later? Because a lot of times, it is like, you know what, it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and let myself do this and beat myself up or not beat myself. I'm going to be okay with it. But just try to remind yourself, how do I feel once I'm done eating this? I don't feel good. So just don't do it,
Well, and I agree with you that for me, a lot of those kind of things are easy, but this is where I want to go and where I'm hoping that even for you and even for every listener is to recognize that, because see what you just did was the action bias thing. Just think about this and everything's good. And so the real thing is, what is my driving force? What is keeping me from being healthy? What is it that is, there's another competing thing that's super important to me that's conflicting with my desire to be healthy. Yeah,
exactly.
So there's something else there.
There is there, yeah.
There's something else there that's saying, I want to be healthy. I'm very passionate about being healthy. I really want this thing. And then these are the actions that I'm taking. And in all honesty, I mean, I work out. I generally eat good, but then this is for sure one thing. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it's the one thing that I for sure do on a regular basis. So what is it that keeps me doing it? And so identifying that is important because if and when I'm able to identify that, what will ultimately happen is now I have to make a decision because it's not necessarily a bad thing. And maybe
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that means, well, maybe I need to keep doing eating, and maybe I can change a little bit of the behavior and say, well, instead of eating X, Y, and Z, you can do this and that. But I don't want to get into the food and the action bias as much as what I want to get to is there's these two competing behaviors that are going on that are important to me. And what more often than not happens is we stay focused on what we want to have happen, and then we beat the crap out of ourselves because we can't do it.
Yeah.
And then we feel horrible that we can't do it.
And that's why I said, if we're going to talk about the food part, like, just be okay with if you do it, you do it. Don't beat yourself up for doing it. It's like, you know what I mean? Just accept that you did it and move on. And if you don't want to do it the next night, try not to do it. I was going to say, because we are talking about that part of it, but I also think that sometimes when you do things like this, is it because maybe you and Patty are enjoying a show and you're doing this?
For sure.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's that connection. Maybe but you're right. You're getting on the food bias part, or I am, where you're saying, okay, well, maybe just don't eat as much. Don't, but if you are going to do it, be okay with it.
Be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and so for the subject of change, the reason why where I'm going with this whole conversation. So we talked a little bit about you being on time. We're talking a little bit about me and the food. What I'm hoping out there for people is that I think our natural tendency is to say, I just really need to work my ass off. If I really am passionate about it, if I really go for it, if I'm really disciplined, then I'm gonna, it's gonna be good.
Right.
Everything's gonna be okay, and I just need to go for it. And then what happens is, often, we don't do it exactly right. And so what do? We just beat ourselves down. And often we just throw in the towel and say, I can't do it. So that's why a gazillion people sign up for gym memberships in January, and then they can't show up, and then they, for whatever reason, they don't show up. And what it comes down to is this third column is probably the most important of this thing. So if you remember, the first column is commitment. Second one is or what is the goal that you have that and not the action. So in other words, the thing I always want to focus on, and you wanted to focus on, is I want to stop changing the pillows. That's not the goal. The goal is I want to be on time. In your case, and maybe there's other goals that are around that, but regardless, I want to be on time. In my case, it's I want to be healthy.
Yes.
Then what am I doing or not doing? Well, you're moving the pillows around right before you need to leave, or just running errands right before you should just be getting in the car. And I am eating particularly poorly right after or before bed. The third column is what is the hidden driving force to the negative action or the negative non-action, meaning I don't go to the gym or whatever.
Right.
What is the negative? There's a force that's driving that. So the thing I'm just throwing out there in your case is there's a pattern that you've had of taking control, and by taking control, it helped you navigate the relationship you had with your first husband. So it really helped you with that.
Right.
And now by habit, you're still doing it.
Exactly, right.
You're still doing it. So you're not in a negative relationship, obviously. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but to the listener, she's not.
Yeah.
And so you're not in a negative relationship right now, but you have the pattern. And so there could be something that there could be a sense that the reason why I need this is because it's keeping me. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
There's nothing
wrong
with
you know what I liked
force.
about this, and what you said she pointed out, is it's not the fact that I need to change the pillows. It's the reason behind why I need to change the pillows. And instead of focusing on, for example, like let's just say tomorrow morning I got to be at the gym for a class, instead of telling myself, oh, don't change the pillows, I'm going to say, I want to be on time. Have it more
that's great.
Right? So I'm going to start doing that, because as much as I still like to walk in if the pillows aren't in the spot, it's not earth-shattering if they are in the spot. If I'm going to be late, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and what's interesting about this is another thing, we didn't get time to do this, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But the thing that's interesting is that what she even says is try it. Try certain things.
Yeah.
Just try certain things and see how it works.
Right.
See how you feel.
Right.
See how because it could turn out that you go, oh my goodness, I've been doing this for so long and I really don't care about the pillows that much.
Right.
On the other hand, you might go, Yeah, I'm going to be late.
Yeah.
So I guess
next week. No, we're not.
This is super important.
So what would you, so in your scenario,
well, we didn't get time to really go into what is my competing thing. I think the biggest thing is what you said is I just love hanging out with my family and usually always Patty and then and whoever else might be here. And so I really enjoy just the atmosphere of hanging out. I like to have a little whiskey and I like to just kind of chill. And it's just a very chill time. And I just fall into this thing of so I don't know. I guess maybe the driving force is a fear of missing out to some degree. Of like I don't want to miss out on what it is. I'm not usually that hungry, and if I am, I certainly could go grab an apple or something else.
Sure.
It's like so, but man, I'll tell you, if there's something sweet in the kitchen, I definitely don't have an issue with wanting to eat that thing. So
yeah.
So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're struggling, what we want to encourage you to do, I would actually encourage you to go check her out, check out her book. Her name, again, is Lisa Leahy, and Robert Kagan is the co-author. It's called Immunity to Change, and there's 4 columns. You can actually, I think you can YouTube her too, and she actually has a whole thing on how this works, and it might be helpful to you. But I want you to know, and Valerie, you're not alone. We're not alone in this wanting to change. And it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing, and we shouldn't be beating ourselves up for it when we can't do it and say, what a failure I am. What, that doesn't help.
Not at all.
Shame is not a good motivator. No. It just does not work. So there you go. Do you have any last second thoughts?
No, I liked this topic, though. That was good.
Yeah.
It was... And thank the audience. No, I really did like the topic. It was good. It actually really made me think. So I'm really glad that you brought it up because there was a couple things that were like light bulb moments that I never really thought about.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I hope there's light bulb moments for you guys out there. So if you want to change, check out that book. We want to encourage you, if you like our podcasts, and we hope you do, that you would give us a high rating and that you would share it with your friends.
Yes, please do.
We really would appreciate that. Put it inside your social media, and we would just, that's how you get the word out.
Yes.
So we're really grateful for Iggy, who's here again, our sound engineer.
Our sound guy.
He gets everything all set up for us. He does all the work, and so any sound issues,
you can blame him.
Yeah, just send Iggy an email. No, I am going to tell you we are still on a low budget, so so some of the sound stuff that you might hear probably has nothing to do with him.
I know,
but it has to do with my dog.
This. We're here.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're here. We're going to be faithful. We want to be here for you guys, and so yeah, if you got change this week, maybe you can work on something and check out that book.
And I like what you said. Figure out why. Figure out the underlying reason.
Figure out the underlying reason. Don't just beat yourself up and go right to action. Like, okay, I'm going to make this change. No, try and figure out, because you probably have some kind of motivation, something that's underlying that's equally important that you either have recognized or not recognized. And until you recognize it, you will continue to bump heads on whatever this thing is that you're really trying to change. So we really do hope you like it, recommend it, and we want you to make it a great week.
Yes, do that.
All right. Thanks, Val.
Till next time.
Till next time. Ciao.
Bye. Bye.